The first words out of her mouth weren't "welcome." They were, "You can't live here." It was a warm June morning, the kind where asphalt wavers like a mirage. My moving truck had just backed into the gravel driveway of my new home, a tidy 1-acre property that sat exactly 1 foot outside the boundary of the Willow Creek HOA. That 1 foot would soon feel like a war zone. She appeared before the engine even shut off. Short blonde bob, clipboard, HOA polo, name tag that read, Marilyn, President. "Excuse me," she said, marching across the property line like she owned the air. "This lot's part of Willow Creek. You need to register your move with us before unloading." I smiled, still holding a box labeled kitchen. "Actually, it's not. County records put this parcel outside your HOA. Bought it that way." Her face twitched. "That's impossible. Every home on this cul-de-sac belongs to Willow Creek." "Except mine," I said, pulling the deed from the folder I'd kept in the glove compartment. "Lot 47B. Separate plat. No covenants." Marilyn's eyes scanned the paper, but she wasn't reading it. She was already planning her next move. "We'll see about that," she snapped, heels crunching down my gravel as she stormed off. I thought it was over. By sunset, it was just beginning. That evening, I came home from the hardware store to find an orange violation notice taped to my garage door. The header read, "Willow Creek HOA Compliance Warning." The offense? Unapproved mailbox design. I didn't even have a mailbox yet. The next morning, 2 more notices. One for improper trash bin placement, another for vehicle parked facing the wrong direction. Each one printed on HOA letterhead, each signed by Marilyn. I knew what was happening. She couldn't stand that a house existed beside hers, untouched by her rulebook. To her, freedom looked like defiance. I started documenting everything. Phone photos, date stamps, camera angles. I made a folder called HOA Karen. Day 3. I caught her standing in my driveway, snapping pictures of my siding with her phone. I walked out slowly, coffee in hand. "Can I help you?"
"I'm documenting violations," she said flatly. "You're supposed to have white trim, not slate. It's in the guidelines." "Guidelines don't apply here." Her tone dropped to a hiss. "If you want to live here, you'll play by our rules." I didn't answer. I just let the doorbell camera capture every second. By week's end, the situation escalated. Someone, guess who, dumped a bag of lawn clippings across my driveway. A neighbor whispered that Marilyn had called an emergency HOA meeting about the rogue homeowner threatening property values. Rogue homeowner. I kind of liked that. So I started reading. Late nights on the county GIS website, scrolling through plat maps and parcel IDs. Turns out my home sat on Lot 47B, a split created 15 years ago when the original developer refused to annex the land into the HOA. The HOA's bylaws explicitly stopped at Lot 47A, Marilyn's house. I printed it all out. Survey maps, deed records, the county zoning overlay. A neat binder of truth. The next morning she showed up again, flanked by 2 HOA board members with clipboards. "You're in violation of Section 3A, unauthorized structure in view of the street," one man said, gesturing at my garden shed. I flipped open my binder and pointed to the map. "Section 3A applies to Willow Creek. This," I tapped the red outline around my property, "is unincorporated county land. You have no authority here." Marilyn's lips tightened to a thin line. "We'll see what the county says about that." "Oh, I already did," I said. "They agree. With me." She turned red. They left without a word, but not before one of them whispered, "She's not going to drop this." He was right. That night, I caught a flicker of light near the side fence. Flashlight beam, faint but deliberate. Someone checking the boundary markers. I turned on my floodlights. The beam vanished. By now, it wasn't about property lines. It was about control. She'd spent years ruling her cul-de-sac like a queen, and I'd just moved in without kneeling. I poured another coffee, opened a new folder on my laptop and labeled it Evidence Chain. Because if Marilyn wanted a war over a line in the dirt, I was going to show her how deep that line could go. 3 days later, I woke up to the sound of metal scraping. At first I thought it was raccoons. Then I looked outside. Marilyn, wearing gardening gloves and a reflective vest, was prying up my survey pin. I stepped out quietly, phone recording. "Morning, Marilyn," I said. "Need help with that?" She jumped like she'd touched a live wire. "This marker's in the wrong place," she snapped. "Our HOA landscaping easement extends 4 feet beyond this fence. You've encroached." I held up my phone so the red light glowed on her face. "That's county property, not yours. You just tampered with a legal survey marker. It's a misdemeanor." Her mouth twitched. "I'm correcting a boundary discrepancy." "Then you won't mind explaining that on video?" She left fast, muttering something about getting the board involved. That was the moment I decided to get professionals. The next morning, I called Caldwell Surveying, a firm I'd used years ago for a fencing job. By noon, a tech named Aaron was out with GPS gear and a tripod. He confirmed it within an inch. My lot was exactly where the county map said it was. To make it official, he filed a boundary verification report and sent copies to the county assessor's office, time-stamped, certified, and sealed. That night I printed the report and slid it into my binder. Page 42. The harassment didn't stop. It evolved. Marilyn started leaving HOA newsletters on my porch, highlighting mandatory dues in yellow. When I ignored them, she sent late fee notices. Then came a letter from HOA Legal Department demanding $875 for non-compliance. Except there was no HOA Legal Department. The letter traced back to her home printer, identical fonts, even the same paper watermark as her earlier notes. That was my cue to escalate. I bought a $49 wildlife camera and mounted it in a birdhouse facing my fence line. A second one faced my driveway, both uploaded to cloud storage. Within 48 hours, the cameras caught her crossing onto my property 5 separate times. One night, she shone a flashlight through my garage windows. Another, she poured something from a spray bottle onto my new grass. It smelled like bleach. I filed a report with the county sheriff. Deputy Reeves came out, calm and professional, reviewing my footage on a tablet. "You've got plenty here," he said. "Trespassing, vandalism, possible harassment. Keep logging everything. I'll issue a formal warning." He did, and it worked. For a week. Then she escalated again. A bright orange sign appeared at the entrance of the cul-de-sac. Notice: non-member home in violation. Property under HOA review. She'd made it look official, laminated it, even bolted it to a post. That was the moment I stopped reacting and started building my case. I compiled every photo, notice and timestamp into a chronological harassment file. I printed county zoning overlays, HOA plat maps, even pulled Willow Creek's articles of incorporation from the state's business registry. What did I find? A gem. Marilyn had been filing annual HOA reports using a personal Gmail account and signing them as Managing Agent, a title she didn't legally have. In fact, the HOA's non-profit status had lapsed 2 years earlier for failure to pay a renewal fee, meaning the HOA didn't even legally exist. That discovery hit like lightning. I called my attorney, Tom Hughes, a quiet bulldog of a man who'd handled HOA cases for a decade. He reviewed the file, whistled low, and said, "You've got her. She's impersonating an officer of a dissolved entity and issuing false notices. That's fraud and harassment." We decided to set a trap. Tom drafted a cease and desist letter, citing the HOA's dissolved status and listing every date, photo, and statute violated, right down to Penal Code 602.8 for trespass and Civil Code 527.6 for harassment. He sent it certified mail. Then we waited.
2 days later, my doorbell camera pinged. There she was again, pacing, waving the letter in the air. "You think you can threaten me?" she shouted at the lens. "This neighborhood follows my rules." Perfect. All recorded. That video hit 4K cloud storage faster than she could storm off my porch. The next morning, I filed for a restraining order and attached the video, photos, and every fraudulent letter. The clerk's eyebrows rose halfway up her forehead as she flipped through the binder. By the afternoon, the court had issued a temporary restraining order pending a full hearing. When the deputy served her, she screamed so loud you could hear it from 3 houses away, and still, she didn't stop. She called a special emergency HOA meeting in the clubhouse. Agenda item number 1, legal action against rogue homeowner at 214 Brookside. I decided to attend, quietly, with a camera and a county official sitting beside me. Because if she wanted a public showdown, she was about to get one. The emergency meeting was held on a Thursday evening inside the Willow Creek clubhouse, a beige box that smelled faintly of stale coffee and fresh resentment. I showed up 5 minutes early with my lawyer, Tom Hughes, and a man from the county assessor's office named Patel, who carried a roll of maps under his arm. Inside, the board sat behind folding tables, paper name placards in front of them like a courtroom parody. Marilyn sat dead center, gavel in hand, expression carved from granite. As soon as she saw me, her jaw tightened. "You're not allowed to speak," she barked. "This is a closed meeting." Tom leaned forward, voice calm. "Under California Civil Code 4925, any meeting that discusses legal matters involving non-members requires notice and access to the affected party. You gave both." The room went quiet. I sat in the back, setting my phone on record. Marilyn slammed the gavel. "This so-called homeowner has refused to comply with Willow Creek regulations, has threatened board members with baseless legal claims, and is disrupting community harmony." She clicked to a PowerPoint slide labeled Evidence of Non-Compliance. It showed photos of my house, my truck, my mailbox, my siding, all taken from angles inside my property line. Tom whispered, "Admitting to trespass on the record. Beautiful." Marilyn pointed toward me. "This house sits within our jurisdiction. I have the original plat maps to prove it." That was Patel's cue. He unrolled a large county survey map across the table. The paper whispered as it spread. Crisp, official, covered in red lines and coordinates. "This," he said, "is the recorded boundary of the Willow Creek subdivision, certified by the county in 2006. He pointed to the heavy red outline. "The HOA stops here, Lot 47A. Then, tapping the next parcel, "This is Lot 47B. It's a separate parcel, outside your association." Murmurs rippled through the room. One board member frowned. "Wait. That means his property isn't subject to dues?" Patel nodded. "Correct. Nor to your bylaws, restrictions, or enforcement authority." Tom added quietly, "Which also means every notice you sent him was fraudulent, under Civil Code 4765. Marilyn's face went pale. "That's not true. We've always managed this cul-de-sac." Patel shrugged. "Tradition isn't law." Someone in the back snorted. A few neighbors pulled out their phones, recording. Marilyn's voice cracked. "You can't record. This is private business." Tom smiled. "Public meeting. Public record." Her composure broke right there. She stood up, shouting, "You people don't understand. If we let him get away with this, property values will tank. He'll park boats, chickens, RVs." "I have a Toyota," I said evenly, "and a dog." Laughter spread. She slammed her palm on the table. "You think this is funny? This neighborhood has standards." Tom leaned forward, voice like steel. "Marilyn, you've harassed my client, falsified documents,
trespassed repeatedly, and impersonated an officer of a dissolved HOA. You should be thanking him for not pressing criminal charges. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. Patel rolled up his map, the sound final like a drumbeat. The county's already reviewing the HOA's filings, he said. You'll be receiving notice of compliance violations within a week. And just like that, the meeting dissolved. People gathered around me afterward, neighbors who'd been quietly intimidated for years. One whispered, "I always thought she overstepped," but no one wanted to challenge her. Turns out, the HOA's bank account had less than $200 left. The treasurer, now pale as chalk, admitted Marilyn had been paying herself a stipend for administrative hours. The next week, a county audit confirmed it all. The HOA's non-profit status had lapsed, its accounts were mismanaged, and its bylaws were void. Marilyn tried one last stunt, filing a small claims case against me for unauthorized signage. It was dismissed in 3 minutes flat. The judge, glancing over the evidence binder, said only, "Ma'am, this property is not under your jurisdiction. Case dismissed, with prejudice." Her face turned crimson. "This isn't over," she shouted as the bailiff escorted her out. But it was. 2 months later, the Willow Creek HOA officially dissolved. The homeowners voted 18-2 to terminate it, citing irreparable mismanagement. The motion passed. I replaced my gravel driveway with smooth concrete and installed a small garden at the edge of the property. On the fence, I hung a simple wooden sign, "Private property. Boundaries matter." Some neighbors stopped to admire it. Others just nod. As for Marilyn, she moved out 6 weeks after the dissolution. Her house sold below market value. The new owners? Friendly co's. Upple, no clipboard, no bylaws. Now every time I sit on my porch, I hear the quiet hum of peace. No notices, no shouting, just the wind through the trees. Funny how much freedom a single foot of land can buy. If you've ever fought back against an HOA bully, or plan to, remember, evidence beats ego every time. Drop your story in the comments, and subscribe if you believe property lines should mean something.